Okay, welcome to module 2 of our Power BI course. Today, we are going to be looking at extract, transform, and load. So we have our Power BI welcome window on the screen, as you can see. So you can always open a blank report, as you see here. You can open a blank report in Power BI. But it won't do you any good because you don't have data. You can ingest data. So when you're getting data from somewhere into Power BI, we say ingest. You can ingest data from one lake catalog, Excel workbook. These are the common ones. SQL server. You can learn, you can practice with sample data already in Power BI, or you can get data from other sources. So remember that our superstore data is a CSV file. And so we are going to get data from other sources because we don't have CSV amongst these samples that Power BI has presented here, is presenting here. So we're going to click on get data from other sources. All right, I hope you can still see the screen. And we're going to choose text/CSV. Wherever we have CSV, we click on it and we choose connect. So we're connecting the two. Then you have to locate the folder in your computer where you save the data set. If the data set was saved online, maybe in SQL, MySQL, any of those many data sources, you will choose there and then you can input the URL or you follow the processes to get and to extract. So in some cases, you will have to extract some tables from a large data set, like if you have to use SQL. But today, we're using the simplest method. We are going to just get our data set saved in our computer, and it's a superstore data set. We locate the folder, and then we click on the data set, and then we click on open. Once we click on open, I hope you can still see.
Yes, I'm saying.
Okay. So once you click on open, you have this transition screen or this dialog box that opens, and then you see a snapshot of the data that you have connected to. The data has some columns beginning with row ID, order date. So this gives you a snapshot of your data to tell you or for you to confirm if this is actually the data set that you want to connect. So if you look up here, they say the file origin, it comes from 1252 Western European window. That's where the origin, maybe the person who first designed the data set, maybe that's the origin. Then we have the delimiter here, which means the data in some columns are separated by, okay, the primary delimiter here is a comma, although I cannot find, okay. So that's the primary delimiter that Power BI is trying to show. But then you can choose your primary delimiter. But if you want to separate data, let's say this customer name, you want to separate the first from the second name. Our delimiter here is just space. So there's no big deal with that. Then they are saying that this data you are seeing here is based on the first 200 rows of your data. You can have up to 1,000, 10,000 rows, but the one that you see here is the first 200 data. Okay. So we are not yet on Power Query. We're still on this, at least we're still confirming that this is our data. Once everything is confirmed, we simply click on transform data, as you can see here, bottom right, where my cursor is, transform data. We click on it. Okay. Once we click on it, let me share the screen now, because it's a different screen. Okay, I hope you can see. So,
Can you make the screen bigger?
can I make what?
Bigger.
I didn't get you.
Expand the screen.
Okay. I think what you are saying is the whole screen, and I'll explain why. This is the Power BI, this is the Power Queries window, as you can see, and it is divided into different parts. What you see on the left is the queries pane on the left. So if I have to click this arrow to expand the data set, the queries pane will collapse, as you can see what I've done here, right? But I want us to see the queries pane because we're going to have some explanations to make. Because the queries pane show you the number of tables that are in your database. In this case, we have just one table now, which is our
Sir,
superstore. Yes.
excuse me, please. Yeah, the screen is quite small. And to make it better, if you're using your phone, you can turn it on landscape.
No,
Is it
you don't
landscape
have
or portrait? Sorry.
you don't
No,
use
I'm actually using my phone and I'm using portrait and it's better. No, just turn the screen. Just put the presentation on portrait. Since we are observing, it will be better for us.
I'm using my computer.
No, yeah, I'm sure I'm talking to the other learners, not
Okay,
you, sir.
okay, perfect.
Yes. If in case you're using your
Okay,
phone,
yeah, the phone, you can use your phone, you can turn to landscape.
yes, it will
Perfect.
be better.
Yes, that will work. Okay. All right. So I was explaining we have the queries pane on the left, tell us the number of which tells us the number of tables that we have in our entire data model. And then in the middle, we have again a snapshot of our data, just like we saw when we were about to load. And then on the right, we have the applied steps. So any step that we do here, anything that we do, any transformation that we make to this data set, that step will be applied on the right. So there's no undo like Control Z or Control or redo here. If you simply want to undo a particular step, you come to the apply steps here and you click this X button. It will remove that step. So this is where you do data cleaning, you identify missing values, null values, wrong spellings, and then you do calculations of maybe revenue, total revenue, add columns, whatever you want to transform, however you want to transform your data, you do it here before you load it to Power BI. And the advantage of doing it here is that if you ever add data to this superstore data set, let's say the last row we have is maybe 1000. If you ever add data to have maybe 1001 rows or 1002 or up to 1500 rows, and then you click refresh in Power BI, that data is automatically picked up and all the apply steps that you did to the first set of the data on this right hand spin, it will automatically be applied on the recent data. So everything will automatically be clean. You will not have to go again the second time to clean the data. And that is the importance of Power Query. You do it once and then it takes the other ones when subsequent data will come in. All right, so that is it for the window. Let us look at so the middle part is the data preview, so a snapshot of our data. The best way to call it is data preview. And then we have the ribbons here. It's just like Excel where we have the home tab, we have the insert, we have the formula tab. So here we have the home, we have the transform. I think this is the new tab that you will see here, different from Excel. We have the transform, we have the add column, we have view, we also have view in Excel, and then we have tools, and then we have help. We also have help in Excel. So the new things that we see here, we have transform, add column, and tools, right? So we are going to click on each one of them and we'll just glance through what you can do with each of those. It's just like Excel. When you click on the ribbon, the groups open. So when I click on the home ribbon, the groups for the home, they open just below it as you can see. So with the home ribbon, we can do close and apply. This is the last stage we are going to do. After our transformation, we are going to click on close and apply to load our data now and we enter into the report view. Now we have new source. Maybe you want to bring in another table. Okay. You can click on new source and then you can bring in that table, maybe from Excel, SQL Server, or any other data source. You can click more if it is not amongst the suggested. Then if you want to see recent sources, you see, if I click on recent sources, you see that we have the Superstore CSV file, which is a CSV file. And then I had done Superstore Excel before, and I had tried connecting data from the web before. So these are the recent sources that you've worked on in your data. Now you could also want to enter data manually. Okay. So when I click on enter data, you see a new table here is popping up for us to enter data manually. If you want to create a new table, it's similar to what maybe we did in Microsoft Access. For those who did Access, you can click, you can add a column. You can add, if you want to create a date table or a customer table, you can do that manually here. But that's going to take you some time. So let's close that. We don't need that. Let's come back to home, and then we have data source settings. So you can also set data sources. So if I click on data source settings, you see that the first one we have is the Superstore CSV file, and it is saved in the folder called Power BI course in my projects folder. This is the file path. So you can modify it if you've changed your data set, because sometimes you can copy a data set from one folder to another folder in your computer. And when it comes to Power BI will no longer recognize the data, and it will tell you that data source has changed. So you have to click here on data source and you locate the new file path. If not, you're not going to have any work to be done on your report. So that is that for file data source settings. Then we're going to see parameters. These are very important. You can set a parameter and then later on you call that parameter. For example, you can set parameter for a particular year, and then you call that parameter and the data will automatically be filtered for that particular year. So we're going to see that later. Then we have export query results. If you have to export this maybe to email to somebody, you can do that. We don't want to do that now. So we're just looking at the home ribbon, and then we have properties, advanced editor. You can choose a column, you can remove a column, you can click on a column, and then you remove it if it's not necessary. So in data cleaning, if you have a column that is not needed, you can click on that column, and then you come to the home ribbon, and then you come and take remove column. Do that. You can keep rows, you can remove rows. You can split a column. For example, I talk about customer name, we can split it to first and second. Then we have group by. You can replace values if you have missing values. You want to replace maybe with something, or you want to replace wrong spellings. You can do that still in the home ribbon. Then you can merge queries. You can append tables if you have what we do in SQL, like left join to append to merge tables. You have two tables, you can merge them and you can append them still on the home tab. So it's very important. The home tab is very important. Same like in Excel, the home tab is very important too. One of the most important ribbons. So for transformation, it is to do more of transformation, changing data types, transpose, you can reverse rows. We are going to see this thing pivot and unpivot, converting rows to columns and columns to rows is very important. So in some data sets, that's what we call pivot and unpivot. It's different from pivot tables, so you don't get confused with that. You can split a column. Remember in the home tab, we saw merge column, but if you want to split a column, you can split it in the transform tab. And then we have format. Can format your data to have just uppercase or lowercase. And then sometimes data can be spelled, and people at times make mistake and they tap the space key on the keyboard before they start typing a name. And so you're going to have a leading space. We call it leading space. Sometimes you have a leading space in your data, which can affect your data. So you can trim it here in the transform. We're going to see maybe one of those. You can do some few calculations here. You can check the maximum, the median, the average, few calculations here. Even under this standard, you can do a few calculations. Maybe it's because I am selecting the date column. Let me just select the revenue column. I think we have revenue here. Sales. Let me select the sales column. Maybe I come to transform and click on, you see that standard now is no longer blur. It is now I can multiply stuff here. When you point your cursor on it, it tells you what it does. It says multiply each number in the selected column by a specified value. Maybe you want to multiply uh, this sales by a particular figure factor. Maybe you want to give a discount and you multiply the sales by maybe 0.1 or something. You can do it here and know how much discount you have to give to the person. So that's important. All right, we can do absolute value here, square root, cube root for a particular column. If you want to multiply by itself twice, trigonometry, if it's necessary, sine, cos, theta, tangent. Whenever it's necessary, maybe you are dealing with spatial data, you're dealing with maybe data for landscapes and things like that, that you need to do some of these things. Transformation to sine and cos, tangent, arc sine. You can do that here, still in the transform tab. Very important. The date is also powerful. It's blurred because I'm selecting the sales column, which is not a date column. So if I were to select a date column, the date tab there is going to be active. So let us say that I select order date. All right, so order date, if I come back to transform and come to date, it's now active. We can maybe get the age if it was maybe people here, if they were beneficiaries, and this way their dates of birth. You could, extract their ages already from there. You could just get the dates only, or you extract the year. We'll do this in a minute. So you can extract that. Then if you want to run an arrow script, because sometimes Power BI has advanced so that you can run an arrow script or a Python script on Power BI. But first of all, you must install arrow on your computer, and you must install Python if you want to run their scripts. So you can do that here. Advanced stuff. If it's necessary for you to run an arrow script on your data or Python codes on your data, you can try it here. You click on run Python script, the space opens, and you can type whatever thing you want to type, whether you want to call your pandas library or whatever numpy, whatever thing you want to do, you can do it here. But first of all, you must have installed Python in your computer. If not, it's not going to work. I'm sure it was working because I have Anaconda installed here and I use Python. All right, so for the add column, very easy. You can add a column, conditional column based on some conditions, index column, extract columns. You can do that. For view, we are going to see this just in a minute. And then for tools, diagnose. So what you have to do as an assignment is to go through all of this and try to do some gymnastic with your data. Just explore, just click a column, come and click transformation, change one thing and see how it works. In that case, you are going to learn a lot. All right, so let us try one or two transformations. So you know that here you're doing data cleaning, although we call it transformation when it comes to ETL. So you're going to check for missing values, you're going to check for wrong spellings, and you're going to check for many other stuff. So let us try one or two of them. At least we've gone through the different ribbons and you understand now what you need to do if you want to maybe remove columns, you know where to go and things like that. So the first thing that you should do, because if you want to manually look, we have data up to maybe 10,000 rows. And although we're having just the first 200 here, imagine that you want to manually look to see errors. How long will you take to do that? And your eyes are not perfect, so you can still skip some errors. So the first thing that you need to do is to let Power Query give you a summary of what is in your columns. To give you a summary of your column data. So each column, it will give you the summary. It will try to look through the data and see if there is something that is away from the usual. For example, we have row ID and their numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. For example, if you happen to have text somewhere, I think you should be able to detect that there is an error because now it knows that majority of these numbers or majority of what is in your column here, they are numbers, So if you have somewhere text somewhere, maybe instead of having this 13 here, the person use pair 13. Is it even possible to edit it right away? Not possible to edit right away. Unless you have to replace. You cannot edit as in Excel. So if I want to change this 13 from number to figure, I have to come to click on the row ID, click on, I think I have to right click on the row ID, and I take replace values. So it's just like find and replace in Excel for those who use Excel. So I can say I want to find the value 13, and I will replace it with 13, the spelling 13. Then I take OK. It's even trying to refuse her. So what does it say here? It says enter a number value. Why should I enter a number value? Because the data type of the column is what? Number, not text. So automatically Excel is refusing, whereas Power Query is refusing. I thought Excel today, so I'm calling Excel. So you cannot even replace a value here with a text because the column is formatted as value. So that is even wrong. We can't even do that. Anyways, let us check. If you have questions, just write them down so that you will not forget. Okay, so we don't need to click anything here because we're doing something for all the columns. So we are going to come over to the view tab. I told you that we'll see the view tab in a second. So come to the view tab, take note, and the first thing we'll check is the column quality. So I click on column quality. And once I click on column quality, what do you see? You see that something has changed up at the top, just below the column name. We have something like valid, error, empty. So what happens? Power Query has gone through all the data in our data set and tries to identify if there are any errors. How will we know if there are errors? If there is a deviation from the usual. For example, if you have 100 data entries, and out of those 100, 99 follow a particular pattern. Let's say for this order ID, you see they have the state, they have the year, then they have a number. Then Power Query will know that that is the usual. That's the normal thing that should be on this column. So if you go somewhere now and you have something different, Power Query will pick that thing as an error, and they will give you the percentage here. But for this our data, since it came from Cargo, I don't know whether I should be unfortunate for us because we are learning. We should be fortunate. Everything is clean so far. But at least you understand the logic. If something was out of the usual, we are going to have the error percentage, and you mostly have that with real world data because it's unusual to have clean real world data first time. You are the ones to clean it. So, but at least you know what to do to identify if you have errors or you have empty rows. So there are no empty rows here. There are no empty rows here. If there were empty rows, we will see at least a percentage for empty as you go through all the columns. So you go right all the way to the right to the last one, and you will see that, well, data set came already prepared. So let's look at the next thing. The next thing we're going to look at is, after column quality, let's look at column distribution. So I'll leave this column quality right here. Then I'll click on column distribution. When I click on column distribution, what do you see? You see some sort of a bar chart appears just below the column profile or the column quality. We're coming to column profile in a second. So you see that here, Power Query tries to do what? Look through the data and identify unique and distinct values or unique and distinct data sets. What's the difference between distinct and unique? For example, if I have 4 entries, let's say my data has 4 entries, and out of those 4 entries, one of them repeats itself 2 times. Let's say I'm supposed to have 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are 4 entries. But I have 1, 2, 3, 3. It means 3 repeat itself how many times? 2 times. Now, I have 4 entries in my data set, but I have just 3 distinct values. So distinct values are the ones that the total number of values that we have in the data set that appear at least once. I don't know if you get it. So I have 1, 2, 3, 3, 4 entries, 3 distinct values. Because I have 3 twice, so Power Query will see it as a distinct value. So if I have 3 again, let's say I have 5 entries this time around, and those 5 entries, I have 1, 2, 3, 3, and 3 again. What happens is that I have 3 times, but then you see, and altogether I have 5 total entries. but I'll still have but 3 distinct because I have but because when you look at the data, if you use filter, you'll see that I have 3 different numbers. They just simply repeat. All right. So, but what is unique? Unique means they appear only once. At least even from the French word unité. Unité means one, right? So unique means they appear only once. So even though I have my 3 appearing 3 times, that 3 is not a unique value. Parquet will not count it as a unique value. You count it as under distinct, but will not count as unique because that 3 already appears 3 times. So my unique values will just be 1 and 2. I'll have just 2 unique values because 1 appears only once, 2 appears only once. So in this data set, for example, this row ID, we have 1, 2, 3 up to 1,000. So each value occurs only once. That's why you have 1,000 unique, as you see here. And then you have 1,000 distinct because after all, those are the numbers that you have normally in your data set. Some don't even repeat. So that may not be useful for row ID because normally row IDs should be unique. Of course, each row should have a unique ID. But then look at order ID. Order ID, we have 479 distinct. I hope you can still see. If you cannot see, please indicate. Order ID has 479 distinct, but it has 226 unique IDs, which means there are some IDs here that repeat. There are some others that repeat. Okay, so maybe it belongs to a particular product or a particular client because you have the state is California 2016, and then you have this order. Or maybe the person who was putting in the data set just did some values and then copied and pasted again. Maybe stuff like that. So we have 226 unique, like they appear just once. That's what we are saying here. But altogether you have 479 distinct, but you have 1,000 entries. I hope you understand. As you see, we have 1,000 entries. Out of those 1,000 entries, altogether, if you want to count like the entries that appear at least once, there are 479. Some appear twice, some appear thrice. There are 479. But the ones that appear only once, there are 226. I'm sure this makes sense now. All right. So this may be useful in cleaning your data. Maybe for some columns, maybe for others, it will not be useful. But for some, it will be very useful for you. So you can check here if you don't expect. So when we will duplicate this, when we'll create our customer table, you understand what I'm saying? Because in a customer table, a customer should appear only once. So if a customer appears twice, then that should be a problem. So in the customer table, you expect that under the customer name or under the customer name, you should have the same number of distinct as the same number of unique. Or here, row ID, you expect that row ID should appear just once. So if this 1,000 was different from what was here, then you look for that error and correct it, which means there was an error in data entry. So this is very important. So you can look for the others. Look at the ship mode. There are just 4. Either is second class, is standard class, or let us see the others. Let's click on this filter. Either is first class, same day, second class, or standard class. So we have just 4 of them repeating, and there's no unique. You see, unique here is 0 because none of them appear only once. They appear many times. Second class appears many times. Standard appears many times. So none of these values or these entries appear only once. So unique is 0. But then distinct is 4 because there are just 4 of them. There are 4 distinct values that repeat. But total number of entries is 1,000. All right, I think we have labored a lot on that point, and I think it's very clear. So you go through and you see, you identify if there are any errors. Because you're supposed to first of all know your theory. Know that this is supposed to be like this. This is supposed to be like this. So if you find something unusual, then you look for it and correct it. All right. So last thing to do is column profile. So we've seen column quality, column distribution under the view, and then column profile. If I click on column profile, it gives me a summary of the data in each column. Let me click on row ID. Its on will change. It gives me the value distribution. It gives me the number of counts, the error, the empty cells, the distinct, the unique, the non-value numbers, the 0, the minimum, the maximum, the average, the standard deviation, So you can have some sort of a summary here. Let me click on sales to see the average sale for the entire data set. When you're doing calculation or just exploring the data. So if I click on sales, I highlight sales, and then I want to see, I need to click, is it twice? Okay. So that we see the column profile. So we see that we have 1,000 counts, no errors, no empty cell, 901 distinct sales, 831 unique sales. There's no zero, no non-zero number. There's no zero. There's no minimum and no maximum. And then the average sale is 8,159.952 dollars. That's the maximum. Then the average is 241. You can check all of that. So that's the first stage that you do. So if you have data that is not consistent, you can correct. So let us assume that. All right, let us undo this column profile so that we have our data preview. Let me uncheck it here. So to undo, I can either uncheck. Yes, I think I can uncheck that one. Maybe I should also uncheck column distribution. Let's just leave column quality right there. Okay, so let's just try a few of them. Even though the data is quite clean, let's just try a few of them. We have 2.4, practice replacing a word, and then right click. All right. Let us just try. Let's assume that there was an error somewhere where we had those four. Okay. Yes, let us assume that we had an error here where we had this first class, the same day, second class, standard class. Okay. Let us assume that we want to replace same day with anything funny, maybe third class, if there's ever third class in a plane, or third class goods. Let's just assume that we want to replace standard, or want to replace same day with the third class. So we just have to right click on that particular column and we take replace values. We've seen this, right? So you must type the same spelling, same day. I'll replace it with third class. So let's assume that was an error and you want to replace it on the entire data set. You just do this and take OK. If you click again, wherever you had same day, you'll see third class. If you're not seeing it, you can click on the filter button and you no longer have same day, but you have third class. And if you want to remove this step that you just did now, because since we're just demonstrating, if you want to remove it, you come right down here to the right, you come to the right, and the last thing you did was filter rows, so you remove it out. So when I click that X button, it goes away. Okay, it was replace value. At least it gives all the steps. We replace a value. So I click where I replace the value, I remove it, and I come back to my ship mode, and I will see that I no longer have third class. I have my same day because it's just like undo. So that is how you do you clean your data. You replace wrong ones. Okay. All right. So let us say that we want to convert, or let us say we want to remove those leading spaces. Maybe let us look for maybe customer name. Let's say there are leading spaces here and want to remove the leading spaces. So you must always select the data before you transform. It's similar to Excel. You don't work on selected data. So I click on this column, and then in order to remove the trailing spaces, we are going to go to transform this time around. We'll leave view, we'll go to transform, click on transform, and then we are going to look at trim. Do we have trim? Let's look gradually and transform, split formats, statistics. We saw this somewhere. Or let's check the home tab. No, should be transform. maybe format. Voila. So it comes to transform, you take format, and then you take trim. So when I click on trim, automatically Power Query will remove any leading space that was before the name. Maybe there was a typing error. You remove all of them. It's important to do this for all text data so that you don't have. But if there was a leading space, you will know, because when you click on this filter here, you will see that one of them will appear twice. Maybe customer will appear twice. I think you always see this in Excel. You have the same data like this, but when you click, you see one appearing twice. It means there's an error in that data. Either there's a space before or there's a space after. So Excel sees it as another data entry. Since he has his 0 and 1s, right? It's computer stuff, binary digits. Doesn't know, it just count the number of spaces and assumes that it's another thing. Okay, so that is one thing you can always do to remove leading spaces in your if they are leading spaces, that means before or after. All right, so one more thing. Let us say that we want to extract the year column from our date, maybe from the order date. We want to extract the year column. We want to create a year column from our order date. So we'll come where we have the order date, select it, and then where do we see the transform, right? You come over to date, and then you look for year and click year again. Once you do that, a new column will be added at the end. So you scroll right through to the end, and you will see that a new column has been added for year. Is it there? It's not there. It's supposed to be to show. All right, let's do that again. Let me undo. Okay, the column, it was there. Oh la la. It actually came, but not to the end. All right, so we have date, and then we come to year, and then click year. So the date column, the year column is added. Okay, I get it. So this is changing the date, but I want us to add a column. So this is a trick. So please take note, this is a trick. In the transform ribbon, we have date. We have the date group. And if you come to add column, we see the date group. So that's where the mix-up was coming. So if you want a new column to be added and the original one remains intact, you need to come to add column. Then you choose date from there. And then you take year and click on year. And so this is it. You can see now that a new column has been added at the end, and it is just the year that have been extracted. Let us say that I want to split the customer column into two, where you have the customer first name. And I think those who do Power Query SQL are versed with this splitting of customer names too. So where is the customer name? This is the customer name. So let us assume that we want to split into two. So transform, split column, and then we want to split by delimiter. Yes, but our delimiter is just space, right? Because there's no semicolon that is separating the first name from the second name. So it's just space. And they're telling us you can choose the space. Is it the leftmost delimiter or the rightmost delimiter or each occurrence of the delimiter? If you take each occurrence of the delimiter, it may be wrong because somebody may have three names, which means it will separate those three names into three different columns. So I will take the leftmost delimiter so that it should separate just with the first space. And I take OK. So what do you see? You see that the customer name has been changed into two columns. Customer name 1, customer name 2, and it has been separated by what? That space. So instead of clear goods, we have clear and we have good here. So that's important too, right? If you need it. But here we don't need to separate our customer into first name and second name. So we're going to undo this step by coming to the right, and then we remove it. Change to split. All right, so it comes back. So wherever it is necessary for you, you do it. Do it only when you need it. If you don't need it, don't do it. All right. You can also merge columns. Okay, you can merge. Let's merge one. Let's try it and then we'll remove it. Let's merge the state with the city. Let's say should we merge this? Yeah, let's merge the state and the city to form one column. So I'll click on the state, the first one, then I'll hold my control key and I'll click on the second one, which is the city. Even if it's on the left, I'll click on it the second time. Then on transform, do we have merge there? Or it's under columns? Is it under columns? Where do we have merge? Or is home? Is it home? Okay. Choose columns, remove, keep rows, split, group by. No, that's not what I want. Let me check transform. Merge columns, that's it. Where we have transform, take merge columns. Once you take merge columns, you can give a new column name, okay? You may want to separate the two, the city and the state, so that they don't have to be joined together. So you can separate it by space. I like to separate by space. Maybe, is there any other thing? Just space. Okay, no problem. So space, then maybe comma. No, no, there's no space, comma. Let's try custom and see. What does custom say? Maybe that might disturb, so we can check that out later. Then just take space. And then the new column name is going to be city or state city. Yeah, since we're in the United States, state city. That's a new column name. Take OK. And what do you see? A new column has been added called state city, and it takes the state's name. If you look, let me scroll so that you see. State city, scroll to the left. All right, so it was merged. All right, so we merged it. So we won't see the other ones. We didn't add a column, we merged one column, two columns into one. So that's it. You're going to see the state and the city merged into one. And we have the states and the cities, the names, they are merged like that. So let's undo that because we don't need to merge them. So I just click this X button here. So we can do a lot in transformation, and you take your time and do it very well so that when you load the data, you don't have an issue. Okay, so we don't have two tables here that we could go to merge tables. I think if you have tables, sometimes you may have tables of the same type of columns. Let's say you're working in as an MIA officer, you have different sites where you run the same project, and then you have data from those sites that comes into you. So you have separate data sets coming from the different sites, and they're going to have the same columns. So in that way, when you pull all of them to Power Query, you may have, if you have 6 sites, you may have 6 different data sets. And so in that case, you're going to append. I think you remember this theory, right? Since they're having the same column headings, you simply append. So I think append is there here, right? Append queries. When you click on append queries, you choose a table to append. Here we have only one table. So if we have other tables, you choose them here and append. 3 or more tables, you choose the tables and append. But we don't have that. So, but at least you know what to do if you have such tables, right? You have append because the rows, the columns are the same. You simply append. And then for merge, I think it's when you have the same rows, something like that. And then you have different columns. You merge, right? If I'm not mistaken with the theory. So you need to get your theory straight for this append stuff and the left join. But the best join that we'll ever use, the best join that we'll ever use in Power BI is left outer join. You can cram the other ones, inner join, this is the left outer join. If you see in an exam, think well before you choose another answer, because that's what Power BI is. That's it. And even this thing of star schema and snowflake schema, the only schema that we use in Power BI is the star schema. If you see in an exam, before you choose any other answer, analyze it very well. All right. So, what should we do again in this transformation? Okay, let us say that we want to do some mathematics. We have been seeing so much of text. Let's say we want to like in our manual, we have an example here to keep only orders where profit is greater than 0. So it depends on your objectives. Maybe they gave you this data set to analyze and they tell you that we want you to analyze only the data set where profit is greater than 0. So you have to do it under transformation so that you load just what you need. And when you load just what you need, it helps your memory. It doesn't, how do they call it in Power BI? You must minimize what? There's a term that I usually use. Load, is it load time or something like that? So you must load only what you need. So if you come and transform it here, you will load just what you need. So let us say the instructions were given that they need only data with profit greater than 0. So we're going to come to our profit column and then we are going to click the drop down arrow and then we're going to click the drop down arrow here and then you see number filters, right? I think you can see that. And then once I point my cursor on it, other things pop up like equals, does not equal, greater than. So I'll click on greater than. It's similar to conditional formatting in Excel. Yes, I think so. So greater than, I don't need to take an. I have just one value. It should be greater than 0. Let me enter the value 0. So I want you to get me just the data that is greater than where my profit is greater than 0. And then I click OK. Automatically, the data set has been adjusted. So all what you have here now is just data greater than 0. So can we check that out? Maybe we should come to view and take column profile and see column distribution. Yeah. Column distribution and see, unless that didn't work out. Does it mean there was no, because I think once we do that, the column distribution should reduce, right? Think so. Unless otherwise, Power Query is still counting columns, rows that are hidden, because actually the rows have been hidden. Maybe when we load it before, when we load it, we go to table.
Yeah, actually, it's counting all the columns. You only
Yes,
hide them. They were
that's
not
it.
deleted.
So it's when we load it to Power BI that we're gonna have. But when you look at the filter here, you see that it has been filtered. Once you have this funnel shape on your filter, it means that the data set has been filtered. So it's kind of just a filter that we applied. As you see on the apply steps, when we chose just profit greater than 0, it means we apply the filter. So Power Query will still count even the other rows that are hidden in our column distribution. All right, so let me undo that step. We don't need it. Let me undo that step. Just to show us that it depends on your objectives. You may want to load a particular data for a particular year, for a particular thing. You just have to do it in transform. Okay. All right, so let us create a customer table. And then maybe that will be that for module 2. Since we don't have a customer table, we can create it from this Superstore, because in Superstore we have customers, we have their name, their state, where they come from, we have customer ID. So we can create it from here. Then once we get to the report view, we can create our calendar table using the auto function, the auto date function. So I think here we just have to come to the Superstore. We can answer queries. We right click on the Superstore and we take reference, not duplicate, reference, so that we create another version and we can rename this one. Right click and since in our manual we have we name it as dim customer. This dim means dimension table. So we have for the stack schema we have a fact table that has all our transaction records like sales, profit, discounts, all mathematical tech stuff. We have it on our fact table. And our fact table here is the Superstore table. Now we have the other tables that surround our fact table. They are the dimension tables. We have the customer table, That's the customer information, customer ID, name, state, city, postal code. We can have the products table, product ID, product name, and then we can have the date table. So for now, let us create the customer table, which means we're going to delete here on this dim customer. We'll delete anything that does not have to do with customer. We'll delete it here. This is just a manual way to do it, because normally you could have this from when you were importing your data from your data source. You could, if you are using SQL, you should have this already. But since we are doing it at the very basic stage, we are actually going to, so I don't need row ID, so I can just hold my control key and then I right click what I don't need. I don't need these ones for the customer. But I need customer ID, I need customer name, I need customer segment. That's the type of customer, whether it's a consumer, it's a corporate customer, where their country, yeah, these are customers, their city, their state, their postal code, that's all in customer information. Their region. But now product is a different thing. We have product ID. So we can also create a product table, okay? Using product ID, category, subcategory, product name. We can also create a product table and we're good to go. Then for now, we have just mathematics, right? Sales, quantity, discount, profit, year, all of these ones. Even this year should be in a dates table. So we have highlighted what we don't need. And then we can right click that and we take remove columns, right? So when we do that, okay, so we have to remove the sales as well. We have to remove all of these ones, all of them. We don't need them for customers. They should be in the fact table. So we right click and take remove columns. All right, so here we have our customer. So what I was saying is that normally we should have just one customer ID here. We should not have multiple customer IDs. We had multiple because in the fact table, you can have a customer who had more than one order. But in this case, that's the reason why we even have different tables, so that we try to reduce a lot of workload by having a customer table that has a customer ID, just unique. All right, so we have to select the customer ID and remove duplicates. Yes, because for now, the customer ID in the customer table should have just one, should be unique. So we have remove duplicates. Okay, remove duplicates. Okay, so I think in this way, our customer table is perfect, right? Yes. All right, let's do the products table. Maybe that will be necessary. So we come to Superstore, we right click, we take reference. Then we have this one, we right click, we take rename. Let's just call it dim so that we know that it's dimension table for the start. Later on, we'll remove that dim just for us to understand. So here we're removing anything that does not have a product. So row, order ID, order date. In the order date, we can have that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Why do you take reference instead of duplicate?
When you take duplicate, I think that you are going to have the same table. And so,
And yes, at that point, you can now delete the columns you don't need. So when you take reference, you're basically doing the same thing, except reference has a different meaning.
yes, but I think it is important to use references because when you go to the data modeling tab, I think it will be necessary for you to, you will see as different tables where you can connect them.
Okay.
Yes, even though we'll still check that out. But I think if you take duplicate, it will be the same table, which means maybe in data modeling, it will not be best for us.
Because when you duplicate, you still can change the name.
Yes,
Can you
but
try
Power
that?
Query may see it as the same table.
Okay.
Uh-huh. All right, so we're in Zim product and we are taking But these are products, right? They has to do with products. I mean the order ID. These are products order IDs, right? Ship mode. So we are removing customers here. Customer. All right, I think this postal code from literature, even though it is numbers, we see numbers here, but it's supposed to be text. So we didn't check data types. So we'll check that. So for product ID, category, subcategory, product name, we leave that out. We leave that and then we select these ones. And then we remove columns. All right, so I think for our product, we have the product ID. We have when it was shipped, and I think this product ID, can we bring it right in front? Yes. We bring this one here. It doesn't want, okay, so. All right, so we have the product ID, the order ID, the order date, the ship mode, product category, the subcategory, the product name. I think that's good for products table. Okay, let's check the data types. Let's go back to Superstore, which is our fact table. And then we check out the data types. So let's say click on one of them, come to home. Voila, transform. And then we have data type here. So this is also important for us to correct before we load our data. What I wanted to stress on is the postal code for the countries that have postal codes. The postal code, even though there are numbers here, normally there should be text. That's the standard by convention. The data type should be text. So when I click postal code, data type here is still showing whole number, as you can see up here. So we'll click on it and we change it to text. This is important because when we'll be plotting, when we'll be building the visuals, when we have to use the map visual, since we don't have latitude and longitude here, we're going to prioritize the postal code here and the name of the state. Since United States and all these things are online, the bin maps will pick it up and we'll be able to have our maybe revenue by state and looking at the map and the bubble and the size of the bubbles. So that's it for postal code. And think if we have any other thing that we will do later, we can still come back to this, because even in the report view, you can always come back to the Power Query to do a few things. But for now, I think that we can click on, we can go to home and then we click on load and close and apply, right? Close and apply. So let's do that. Close and apply. So we apply all the steps. All right, and it is syncing schema. Since it has to open a new window, I think the other window has closed, but it's syncing everything. And okay, we are now at the report view. So if I share that particular screen, I think that is where we are now, if I'm not mistaken. So we're now in the report view, which we are going to see that later. But before we even go to the report view, we're going